Many kids across the country will send Santa a list over the next few weeks trying to get their pick of toys on Christmas morning. For two Wisconsin toddlers, a list simply wasn't good enough as they wanted to get a hold of St. Nick directly. So they tried calling the only number they knew, 911, hoping that they could connect with the big guy from the North Pole himself. Instead, they got the police to show up to their doorstep and told the children that they should just try to visit Santa in person instead. As the Nebraska Cornhuskers prepare for this week's game against the 10th-ranked Michigan State Spartans, Coach Bo Pelini says they are prepared for anything and everything, as Coach Mark D'Antonio for Michigan State likes to use a bit of trickery in order to win some games. Evidence last year in Lincoln, they used a fake field goal in order to get a first down, which ended up leading to a 13-point Spartan victory. Coach Bo Pelini is not willing to give that up this week and is preparing all week for it. Good news for Nebraska, Amir Abdullah, Josh Mitchell, two guys that got banged up a little bit in last week's game against Illinois. They're fully healthy and ready to go. Michigan State and Nebraska will play at 7 p.m. in East Lansing, Michigan, Saturday night. Well, it was in 2006, like you said, against Ben Nelson, who was the incumbent. Ricketts spent $11 million of his own money. He spent more nationally than any other Senate race by himself, and he still lost by 28 percentage points. So he kind of had to redo things when he ran for governor, spent less money. He also vowed this time to go across Nebraska more, as he spent most of his time in Omaha in 06. Athletic Director Sean Eichhorst is known for doing things behind the scenes, and this coaching search has gone to further prove that notion. The only thing we know, according to footballscoop.com, Eichhorst has one specific candidate in mind, and that candidate is being zeroed in on. Most people expect a new coach to be announced sometime early next week. After a heartbreaking 27-22 loss to the Michigan State Spartans on Saturday night, Nebraska football coach Bo Pelini blamed some of the Husker offensive woes on illegal clapping done by the Spartans defense. Quarterback Tommy Armstrong typically uses a clap to signal the center to snap the ball, and it was obvious on Saturday that the sophomore quarterback was having problems with the snap. Looking back on film, it's obvious the Spartans were doing some clapping on defense, which can be considered under NCAA rules a penalty, as it's illegal for the defense to mimic the offensive snap count. When asked about it, Spartan coach Mark D'Antonio said he could move his defense however he wishes. Everything seems to be swell now, as both coaches said they talked about it and are on good terms. You know, debates, it's always one side or the other will say their side won, the other side won. At one point, Hasselbrook said, "I don't know," as his first answer to a question. Ricketts kept kind of repeating the same things. Things got kind of contentious at times. I would give it a draw, but like I said, each side will say their side won. Big Red have a giant test tonight as the 9th-ranked Duke Blue Devils march into the Pinnacle Bank Arena. The Cornhuskers, who are rated number 12 in the country, have not been beaten once this season, but also haven't played any ranked teams. Therefore, this game should prove to be a difficult early season test for the Lady Huskers. Nearly every student I talked to said now that they don't have to buy albums, they have more money to spend on live shows. People who run Pinnacle Bank Arena behind me put on over a dozen concerts each year. Certainly are no critics of Spotify. Complicated issue in whether the pay student athletes has been going on for decades. The issue was reignited when former members of the Northwestern football team attempted to unionize earlier this year. Star City's Tanner Westall has more on if unions will ever come to fruition. One common misconception about Pete Ricketts among Nebraskans is that he was born and raised a rich kid. The fact is the Ricketts family was middle class for pretty much all of Ricketts' childhood. For example, when Pete wanted a bicycle, he couldn't just go ask his mom and dad for money. He had to get a paper route and buy the bike himself. One thing is for certain, if Ricketts does win, he will reside here with his family in the Nebraska's governor's mansion, which is certainly anything but middle class. For Star City News, I'm John Kipper.